Child exile, teenage runaway, military genius, immortal hero. Yoshitsune had little going for him. Exiled to a monastery, he had no money, no allies, and no martial training. He wasn't big or strong or good-looking. His only assets were brains, ambition, and a dream, but childhood dreams can change history. At the age of 15, Yoshitsune escaped. Blow by painful blow, he learned the art of the sword. Fall after bruising fall, he mastered mounted archery. He joined his half-brother Yoritomo in an uprising against the most powerful samurai in Japan. This is a story of insane courage and daring feats, bitter rivalry and fatal love. Based on one of the great works of Japanese history and literature, Samurai Rising takes a clear-eyed, very modern look at the way of the samurai and the man who became the most famous samurai of all. John Brown is a man of many legacies, from hero, freedom fighter, and martyr to liar, fanatic, and the father of all American terrorism. Some have said it was his seizure of the arsenal at Harper's Ferry that rendered the Civil War inevitable. Brown believed that God had chosen him to right the moral wrong of slavery. He was willing to die for something modern Americans agree was a just cause, and yet he was willing to kill for it, too, in the name of righteous violence. Award-winning nonfiction author Albert Marin brings 19th century issues into the modern arena with ease and grace in a book that is sure to rivet readers and spark serious discussion. As a teen in wartime Vienna, Hubert Grouch helped his family hide dozens of Jews behind false walls in their top-floor apartment and arrange for their safe transport out of Nazi-occupied Austria. Nonetheless, in 1943 he was drafted into Hitler's army, soon to be shipped out to fight on the Eastern Front as a radio operator with the German infantry, in spite of his having revealed his own Jewish ancestry. Thus begins the incredible journey of a young man thrust into a war that he was already lost, fighting for a cause in which he never believed. In this transfixing first-person account, Grouch tells the story of how he stayed alive in the trenches, avoided starvation and exposure during the brutal Russian winter, and had survived more than one Soviet labor camp for prisoners of war. Incorporating his own wartime drawings and photographs as well as extensive excerpts from his amazing letters home, the author depicts his harrowing adventures in powerful detail, confronting with both humor and humility the myriad ethical and spiritual challenges that he faced while struggling to endure. Solomon Northrup woke up in the middle of an April night in 1841 with his body trembling, his head throbbing, and a terrifying question in his mind. Where was he? And that is information about a man who was a free black man who was stolen and put back into slavery. So you'll have to check out the book to read his story. Heart of a Soldier is the extraordinary story of war, love, and comradeship, danger, and heroism, told by a Pulitzer Prize winner who is one of our finest writers. When Rick Rizkorla got home from Vietnam, he tried to put combat and death behind him, but he could entirely. From the day he joined the British Army to fight a colonial war in Rhodesia, where he met American Special Forces officer Dan Hill, who would become his best friend, to the day he fell in love with Susan, everything in his remarkable life was preparing him for an act of generosity that would transcend all that went before. Heart of a Soldier is a story of bravery under fire, of loyalty to one's comrades, of the miracle of finding happiness late in life. Everything about Rick's life came together on September 11th. In charge of security for Morgan Stanley, he successfully got all of its 2,700 men and women out of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Then, perhaps thinking of soldiers he'd held as they died, as well as the women he loved, he went back one last time to search for stragglers. Sitting Bull was arguably the Plains Indians' most revered, most visionary leader, one who, by the example he set with his life, influenced Native Americans for generations to come. A great Hunkpapa Lakota warrior, in 1876, Sitting Bull presided over the largest alliance of Northern Plains Indians ever assembled. With Crazy Horse and Gall, he led those thousands to defeat General Custer at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, a victory that fulfilled his prophetic vision of soldiers falling into camp. For Sitting Bull was more than a chief. He was a holy man and seer, an astute judge of men, a singer and speaker for his people's ways. Withstanding the ravages wrought by the army, the railroad, the discovery of gold, and the abuses of Washington, he led his band to Canada rather than come into the white man's reservation. To render Sitting Bull in context, Albert Marin delves into the differences between white and Indian cultures during the 19th century. He vividly illuminates the forces at work: economic pressures, racism, technology, post-war politics that led to the creation of a continental nation at the expense of an entire people. Dr. Marin's richly researched narrative poignantly illustrates how the lands stretching westward from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains were gained by a combination of force and fraud, hard work and courage, broken treaties and bad faith, and good intentions gone terribly wrong. I am sorry indeed your skin is like mine, that your hair is like mine, and that every one around you is a pure red man, like myself. We too have lost our country by falsehood and theft. Sitting Bull said to the remnants of the Nez Perce Indians who managed to make it across the Canadian border into his camp. Some 6 years later, after the deliberate annihilation of the buffalo forced Sitting Bull to lead his starving followers onto a reservation, he told a group of Indian children in an agency school, "We need you to help us understand what the white men are up to. My grandchildren, be good. Try and make a mark for yourselves. Learn all you can." August 9th, 1945, began like any other day for 6-year-old Sachiko. Her country was at war. She didn't have enough to eat. At 11:01, she was playing outdoors with 4 other children. Moments later, those children were all dead. An atomic bomb had exploded just half a mile away. In the days and months that followed, Sachiko lost family members, her hair fell out, she woke screaming in the night. When she was finally well enough to start school, other children bullied her. Through it all, she sought to understand what had happened, finding strength in the writings of Helen Keller, Gandhi, and Martin Luther King Jr. Based on extensive interviews with Sachiko Yusi, Karen Stelson shares the true story of a young girl who survived the atomic bomb and chronicles her long journey to find peace. Sachiko's story offers readers a remarkable new perspective on the final moments of World War II and their aftermath. In 1848, 13-year-old Emily Edmondson, 5 of her siblings, and 70 other enslaved people boarded the Pearl under cover of night in Washington, D.C., hoping to sail north to freedom. Within a day, the schooner was captured, and the Edmondsons were sent to New Orleans to be sold into even crueler conditions. Passenger on the Pearl is the story of this thwarted escape, of the ramifications of its attempt, and of a family for whom freedom was the ultimate goal. Through an engaging narrative, informative sidebars, and more than 50 period photographs and illustrations, Winifred Conkling takes readers on Emily Edmondson's journey from enslaved person to teacher at a school for African American young women. Conkling illuminates a turbulent time in American history, showing the daily lives of enslaved people, the often changing laws affecting them, the high cost of a failed escape, and the stories of slave traders and abolitionists.